Dank, Walter. Can you hear me? Yes. This will be, for you who were here this morning or in Spitz this morning, this will be a little bit different. We will start with showing 2 film clips. For technical reasons, there will be a little bit of a pause in between when I will try to say a couple of words. And after that, we will have a discussion among us up here on the stage. And quite early, I hope to also open up the floor for everyone in the room. As Walter said, we will speak English, but it's no problem at all asking questions in German. The organizers have managed to do something rather extraordinary, I think. On the stage with me are 2 female film directors, both winners of the Berlinale Golden Bear Award. Very prestigious award, not only in the European film world, but in the film world. On my far left, Ildiko Enyedi, Hungarian filmmaker, started off as an artist, concept artist, video artist, has been since many years a film director. Her film My 20th Century was chosen as one of the best 12 Hungarian films of all time. And her latest film, which is the one we will see a clip of now, is called On Body and Soul, in German Körper und Seele. And as I said, won the Golden Bear last year. It also won the prize as Best European Film and Best Film Actress. The main character, Maria, which we will speak much more about later. I will ask the booth to start the first clip. We will soon talk about this film. There's a lot to say about it. But before we do that, just so that everyone has at least a little bit a clue about what we're talking about, we thought that it's best to show both films that are very different at the very beginning. So the next clip we will see will be by Jasmila Žbanić. Jasmila Žbanić and Ildiko Enyedi has several things in common, actually. One of them is being involved in art of different types, also beyond the normal documentary or feature film. Jasmila's 2006 film, I think it was, about Sarajevo and Bosnia, and it's called Grbavica, Esmas Geheimnis in German, also won the Golden Bear, also won the European Film Prize, or was nominated for the European Film Prize and won the Best Actress Prize, or was nominated for that as well? Nominated, okay. Still, close. And we also have the same hate. You have the same hate? Yeah, okay. How long? How tall? You knocked me off my narrative, yes. But that's good. That's really good. The new film, however, is a completely different film. It's called Love Island, and is about three protagonists meeting at an all-inclusive resort on Love Island. If the earlier films were, what should one call them? They were not comedies. This one is what you could call a classical rom-com movie with a slice. I think we're ready to see the second clip, and we're not afraid of contrast, and don't be afraid if you're struck by this contrast now between these two films.
For God's sake, I bought new trunks for you.
What's wrong with these?
They are too small for you.
They're not too small. I'm too big.
I can't imagine that we're gonna be.
Just you, man.
Yes, I'm твой petit.
Siamo tutti esuli dal nostro passato. Studia il passato se vuoi prevedere il futuro.
Nice to meet you.
You haven't changed at all.
Flora, please.
I've missed you.
What do you think of Flora?
She's okay.
Grebo knows nothing.
What do you want from me?
I love Grebo.
I cannot stop thinking about diving out.
You wanna fuck me?
I want to be with you on the island of love. I want to kiss your eyes on the island of love.
Look what I got for you.
When everyone's gone.
Quanto è bella giovinezza che si fugge tuttavia.
The island of love.
Čim se rodiš, već si star. Zato nam je Bog podario travu.
Baby is real big now, huh?
Babies can see anything. It's dark inside.
Give me a minute.
So, now we're all, at least mostly on the same page. And as it says in the program, we will talk about what location means for the narration of a subject, of a story, that it's not chosen by accident, that it helps in developing a story, it helps to develop characters, to contrast things that people are saying with what they're doing. As different as these two films are, the location are extremely important for both of them. I just mentioned in Jasmila's film is this all-inclusive resort on the Love Island. In Ildiko's film, it's a slaughterhouse. This was not clear when we had what we saw in this clip, but it's a slaughterhouse where cows are being slaughtered and chopped up. A very sterile environment with what seems to be very cruel actions. Ildiko, why did you choose the slaughterhouse to tell your story?
To tell the truth, I got this question so many times, and I couldn't minimize my answer ever. But I try. I wanted a normal workplace, and I wanted people to understand that this is a normal workplace. There are lots of slaughterhouses because we eat a lot of meat, and there are also lots of inhuman, cruel workplaces because of the way we live. perhaps in other places not animals are slaughtered, but humans are suffering. An iPhone factory, or where garments are made with this quick fashion, so on. So somehow this is our real environment, and this is where we have to live our unique life and find the fullness of life. And because these are not really friendly environments, generally we react to that by trying to be safe, closing ourselves. So these two extreme characters, this film is about, are quite normal people because they react to a very damaging environment in a very normal, healthy way. But we got just one life, so I wish for them and I wish for all of us to live a full life and to try to risk ourselves and go beyond safety and beyond self-preserving.
Because this is what these two people do. They are, in one way or the other, damaged, and you called them just now extreme, and they are, of course, but at the same time they're telling something about something that we've all been part of. Maria could probably be described as someone with a psychological diagnosis, Asperger's syndrome or something like that. She's afraid to touch other human beings. She is what you would call socially handicapped. Endre, who's she's a quality controller at this slaughterhouse. Endre, who is the financial manager of the slaughterhouse, he has a lame arm and doesn't really have any close relations to other people, especially not to women. So they are both handicapped. It's about them stepping out of their comfort zones and slowly learning to engage with each other. And could you tell us about how they come to realize that there is actually something connecting them?
Yes, I can, but I wonder how many people actually saw the film.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wow, then we don't need to do that.
Okay.
Then you know that they meet in their dreams.
Yeah. But I was very much thrilled by the basic idea of this discussion about space, and both of us we use it as a tool to express what we want to, and this is not just the location, the choice of the location, but all sorts of spaces have so different energy, and I am the perfect invited person for this topic, because somehow in all my life I was really very sensitive to what a certain space tells me, what sort of energy is coming, what sort of relationship I am with the space. And at the start of my career I was quite shy with actors, and I first got in relation with the space, with the locations, finding the locations for the film, and only after with the characters. And sometimes it is really a dramaturgical tool, a very powerful dramaturgical tool. Once I shot a whole film in Paris. Simon the Magician is the title, and it was about someone coming from the periphery to a sort of center. Paris is a very powerful town. And this was an Eastern European not speaking French. And I remember I brought our actor to Paris. I told him just to hang around for a week. I don't even want to meet him. And we made a rendezvous, a meeting point in front of the opera. The Paris Opera is really a very impressive building, and there is a big boulevard leading to it. So I saw him from far as a tiny figure. But in this sort of duel between him and the town, he was the winner. You could watch among the 200 people only him. So I knew that I can build on his personality and on this duel between the space surrounding him. And in the case of Body and Soul, it's really very closed, very sterile spaces where we see them. And the only moment when we see our main female hero, Maria, outside, let's say, in the green in a park, is really like an exploration on a foreign planet. Let's try to learn the rules on this planet. So I am actually very happily and very consciously use space as a dramaturgical tool, not just like a surrounding.
Because this is what I wanted to get at, this dream setting. It's also location. And in this dream, as you all know, there are two deer interacting with each other in a snowy wooden landscape, which is also a location of this film. It's the wood is a location, and the dream as a location is also a location of the film. And that's where they can, so to say, live out or practice what they cannot do in the other location. And they must, so to say, transfer one into that sterile environment. The Love Island is a completely different place. Actually, the exact opposite. Because, at least as I interpret it, such an all-inclusive place, and also on an island, that's where you can do things that you cannot do in your normal environment. If Maria and Endre in their sterile world have problems of stepping out of themselves, this particular location is inviting to that, to cross borders and limits, right?
Yes, I want to go just a little bit before finding Love Island, the process when I was writing it. And just yesterday I got a message from a friend who said that Elena Ferrante's book is now on HBO. Film based on her book is now on HBO. We can see it. And that we discussed that I don't want to see this TV series because I pictured places from this book and these characters so vividly, and they were such a special space for me that I don't want to see a film about it. It's my version of this world that Elena Ferrante gave me. In one way, when we write, we also have imagining spaces, and because probably we are not, at least my production is not rich that they can build what I imagine while writing, I have to look for real locations, and they have to fit energy and what I imagine. And it's interesting that it's never really what you imagine while writing. For me, it's always difficult to explain it in the script how is it? I do it, of course, especially for the team to read. But if I say that seaside is on the left and hotel is on the right, and they are coming out of this place, and sometimes location scouter would look for exactly this, and then I choose opposite location. And he said, yeah, but it's written like this. And I said, yeah, but it's not about this. It's about the energy of the space and the spirit and what this space offers. And sometimes it's hard to communicate because it can be described as a black and white space, and then I would choose colorful space because it tells the truth about this. And it's like character. I'm choosing spaces like actors. Really, they are having dramaturgical role in a film, and also they have their own input to what is it. And when I started writing with Sasha Hem on Love Island, we knew they have to be in a space which is completely, which is isolated. It's a space and time. Of course, space is always connected with time, which offers you to release all your borders. The film is about this two people expecting a child, and then suddenly family dissolves. It shows that the borders go in different directions. And yeah, for me, this it would never happen, this story, if they were not on this place. So it is a character in the film, definitely, and one has to, yeah, really carefully choose it and communicate with the space.
But both of you actually, of course, emphasize this also in your film, as either in the dialogue. In your film, for example, you have the main male character is Liliana, who is the pregnant woman. She wants to make a boat trip, and she says it's no problem because it's all inclusive. And he then answers, on the island it's all inclusive, outside nothing is included, which means that you hint, so to say, in different ways to emphasizing, so to say, the importance of this location. Do you mind if I tell a bit about what is happening, or do you think that it will... How many have seen Love Island?
No.
That's different then. Yeah. Spoiler alert or not?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
So what is really happening here is a kind of a triangular drama. The woman singing here, Flora, used to have a relationship with the pregnant woman Liliane, and they pretend that they never met before because Liliane is married and are expecting a child, and. It's narrated with very much humor, and it's funny in many ways, but what it talks about is, I think, the lack of language they have in order to express both their past and their current feelings. And have you invented this Italian old guy who goes around saying kind of wise sentences? Is he an invention of yours, or is it actually quotes of an Italian poet?
Yeah, the guy was. This island is a very interesting space because it used to belong to family Polesini. The island is just across Poreč in Istria. It belonged to family Polesini, and then when socialism came, they took the island and made a hotel for everybody who could, everybody could come there. And now during after the end of socialism, it's privatized, and it's bought by Austrian company, hotel. So now not everybody can go there. So it's a different history in the film. And the island doesn't look like this anymore at all. It's completely changed. So the film is kind of document about there. So this Polesini family, I met one of the ancestors. No, is it ancestor? Yeah. The one, yeah. And he told a story, and he always uses these words and poems. And I just thought it would be great to include him in a storyline with all his thoughts of love, and of course everything is opposite.
Yes, because he also says, for example, I think I quote this right now, we're all exiles from the past, and if we want to predict our future, we have to look into our past. And there are several of these, so to say, hints throughout the film. And it's all about how these three people, one man and two women, are everyone more or less in love with everyone, how they are going to organize their lives when basically when nothing is included anymore, but we don't know about how that will work out, but at least here they found to some kind of
new structure.
A new structure, a polyamorous structure. About body and on Body and Soul, we also don't know what will happen to the characters in the future, but they have completed an enormous journey throughout this film, from complete isolation to what is a warm and close relationship, not in a fictional dream or in a dream, but in reality. I mentioned that before, that they might seem extreme, these two, Maria and Endre, with their handicaps, physical and psychological, but what they're going through, namely to discover sexuality, love, social surroundings, and interact with that, which they have a problem with, but they're learning that. This is something that we've all had to face in our lives, right?
Yes, in fact, the end of the film is a starting point, and somehow I wanted to make, even there are quite cruel scenes in this film, a warm-hearted and encouraging film. And so often we just don't know how lucky we are. We have no eyes to the beauty of what we have on the ground of human relationships, because we measure it with something absolute, with something perfect. And their relation, I wanted very much to show. That's why this very awkward breakfast at the end of the film was so important for me. It shows that it won't be easy. It won't resolve all the problems. It will be struggle and setbacks and difficulties, and life is not rose from one moment to the other, but they have true trust. They have a true direct relation with another human being, and that's so important, and we should cherish it and enjoy it, even if it's not perfect. Who cares about perfect?
But what they're doing is that they're risking something, because they're both terribly afraid, and it seems to me that what you're saying is that if you don't risk that, it's not worth it, right? What you get is not worth it. You need to risk something to come to something which is valuable and worth it.
Yes, in fact, love is an extreme example of human communication. This is total communication, this is total trust, this is total risk. If you defend yourself, if you take care of your interests, for example, then you just miss the point. It's not love. It's. I remember when with my husband we went in a small village. Priest for preparing us for marriage. It was very funny because in the room beside there was also a football, I think, World Cup, and very excited priest for coming in and out with the news. And there were several other couples from the village, and this priest tried to explain in a very plain way what the hell is this thing, this marriage is. And he had two metaphors, I remember. One was that if you have, life is a motorbike, and the, how is it called, the benzene? The
petrol or gas?
Yeah, the gas with which it can go is love. And the other was that from the moment you are married, you should take care of the interest of your partner, and that partner should take care of the interest of you. And this is quite frightening. It is just like really releasing your defense mechanisms, and it's worthwhile, I think.
Yes, because this is what they realize this as well, because their feelings are so strong. Just after the clip we saw here, Maria is going to a grocery store and is opening the door to the refrigerator where the frozen peas and so are, and immediately the glass door is you can't see through it anymore because the steam, another such a subtle, very subtle hint. The love relationship on Love Island is also a challenge, but for a different reason, because it's an unconventional solution they come to, but it is a solution that is, so to say, grounded in their own experience. The one who has the biggest difficulty in finding to this solution is, I think, the man, who is depicted also as an Eastern European man with, he's, for example, at the very beginning, he's singing Winds of Change. And everyone who has visited Eastern Europe in the last few decades knows that the first thing you hear when you get into a taxi is it's Winds of Change, and he's a real star there. So he's an Eastern European man, but in a completely new love constellation.
You know, I come from ex-Yugoslavia, from Bosnia, and this place is very patriarchal and still very closed for all LGBT subjects. There were several festivals or places where people were really beaten just because they are LGBT. And when we talked to Saša Hemond, who is a Bosnian American writer, he lives in the United States. And we actually, I mean, talking about spaces, it's interesting. We wrote most of the script by Skype. He was in US and I was in Bosnia at different time zones, so many kilometers away. And we were in different spaces, but having this same working hours and working on a script. Which is interesting, but I prefer sitting with real people. It's so much energy lost. Yeah, that was about spaces. So we knew that making a film with a Bosnian character would also provoke audience, and we were thinking, how would it be possible for these homophobic people to understand and to maybe like this character or go for this character, and what are these typical things of Balkan man or Bosnian man that he has. So we try to include that in his character, not having him as a caricature, but as somebody that we know. We use a lot of friends characters in him, and when we had a premiere in Sarajevo, there was a really big, during Sarajevo Film Festival, 3,000 people in cinema. And when two guys are about to kiss, you hear audience saying, "No!" And then they kiss, because what I think, it was possible that they liked them, they went through the film with them, they were in this area with them, and then, you know, it was shocking for them, but then they were laughing, and I thought, okay, they stepped somewhere else. You know, the film was moving people from one position to the other position. They were not leaving the cinema or rejecting or being pissed off. And I know that 2,900 out of these 3,000 were homophobes. So yeah, moving places of people's soul is also beautiful if it happens in filmmaking.
But it was not only the reception after you made the film that raised similar reactions, because parallel to this triangular story, the two women and the man, there are children acting as well. It's not a main part of the film, but here and there are scenes with children, and a girl and a boy, actually two girls and a boy as well, but mainly one girl who's very active, and it's showing something completely different. It's showing an alternative to, so to say, the repression that makes the grown-ups lacking a language, and with these children it's absolutely natural. However, correct me now if I'm wrong, but I think it was so that when you applied for money with the Bosnian cinematographic fund, or whatever it's called, they refused it because they said that the film, or the script at that time, is promoting pedophilia. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, the script was rejected, so we got money from Croatia and we shot it in Croatia. Yeah.
But was that the reason? Did someone tell you that this is?
There was a guy in a jury who publicly said to a journalist that was the reason. And I thought it's always some corruption and they find this as a reason. But yeah, this is what he said. Mm-hmm.
But this point, of course, to the fact that filmmaking, as we talked about already this morning, is a big machinery. It's a machinery on the set, which means that there are a lot of people involved, but it's also a business. And I mentioned this in my introduction of you, that you're both female directors. There are, meanwhile, quite a lot of female directors, but relatively seen, not that many. So I wanted to shift now from these two particular films to your work in general. Do you feel that you're a female film director? Do you think that influence what you do and influence your place in this machinery, in this business? You don't have to answer the question.
You start. No, definitely, I do feel, you know, from beginning of when I entered the academy, during these 4 years of studying, I never heard of any female directress. I had professors who are male, and they were always telling us about these genius men, and never a single name came up as a woman director. So I always felt, what am I doing here? It's really lonely position. And then I finished the academy as one of the best students, and all my colleagues, male, got the job immediately after the school, either on TV or theater or somewhere. And I and another colleague, filmmaker, Aida Begić, we were never invited anywhere. So this was also, you understand, what is it, because we were really the best in the class or in the school. And then I established my own production company, started working and producing small, short films, and I had a video store and put all money from video store in my films, and this is how it came. And then it's always a big thing to step out in front of. At that time in Bosnia, there was only older generation of team. Almost every position was older man. And to really have authority to say what you want to say, and to persuade them that the way they were doing it before is not what you want. It was a lot of fight. I mean, I grew up in Sarajevo. I was spending a lot of time on a street where I had to fight a lot with boys. So I was feeling all the time I'm in this, in front of my building, really fighting. And that's how it stayed also later, for every film I had to, I have a feeling I had to fight 5 times more than my colleagues. And it's still the battle, and it's still this kind of thinking, because the whole structure is made for men, and it is about men. Just to give you a little example, when I was in a jury of European Film Academy, they have a special jury for certain categories like composer, set design, and so on. There were 6 men and me. And every film I loved, they didn't react to it. And every film they adore, I was thinking, this is bullshit. I mean, it's really, and we are talking about best European films. We are not talking about good films, bad films, or whatever. It's really such a different position. Of course, with some films we totally agree, but there are certain things which are just special. I care about them more than about other things. And it's, the system of film festivals, the system of film financiers, of course, have this other kind of sensibility. I mean, things are changing, definitely. So I think for next generation, it will be easier.
But do you think it's a legitimate question for me to ask you to that, because you are female directors? Because it means that we take time away from discussing your artwork and discussing the social structure. Do you think it's a legitimate question for me to ask?
Yeah, for me, this is a part of my work. It is also about, space where I come from, which is Bosnia, I'm coming from the space with a very small language, which is also something that is a barrier in going around video film. We talked during the lunch about it a lot. It's hard to get subtitles films in cinemas in many countries. They don't want to see, or they don't want to listen to the language where they are not so familiar with. Or also there is a thing that if you're coming from a certain space, like Eastern Europe, at least this is my feeling, you have certain expectation what kind of film you should make. Like with this film, we had total problem with distribution. Like my first films, which are dealing with post-war society, with drama, they were distributed all over the world. And when distributors saw this film, they said, we like it, but you know, this is not what our audience expects from Bosnian or Balkan film. If you are from Balkan, you have to always talk about heaviness and how life is fucked up. And if you are from England, you can talk that life is sweet. Or from America, you can be happy. But if you're from Balkan, you have to be down and dark, or wild, subconscious, Kusturica style. These are two lines that are working. At least this is my experience with distributors and producers.
Ildiko, I know that you have answered this question in a very similar way, actually, saying, well, yes, I'm a female director, but I'm also an Eastern European director. I could tell you about what that how that influences me and so on. But you've also been sitting in juries from time to time. Do you recognize the picture that Jasmila paints here?
That one not, but I want to return to the point you told, what sort of topic an Eastern European filmmaker can permit to herself or himself. And although I am a whole generation older, so for me the start was even more tough. I think if I look back at my career, being an Eastern European filmmaker was a bigger problem. In one part, exactly what you thought, and you thought it so exactly, or you have to have a very, very extreme artistic approach, or treat a very tough social issue. And for example, with On Body and Soul, when we started, I told to my wonderful, wonderful team, guys, we probably won't make it to any major festivals, because exactly this is a film in between. We are lucky that I was wrong, but this is what I experienced. The other thing is that Western producers, many times, they just dare to be so incorrect, because they know that we are coming from Eastern Europe, and many times extremely talented and high quality professionals don't get the same money, the same respect, the same punctuality and paying, and so on. By the way, in juries, in jury work, I really love this sort of Stockholm syndrome. We are closed for a very short time. It's like Love Island, so many things happen. And everybody becomes very passionate. It's like when you play a board game. You sit down to play Monopoly, and half an hour later, you know more about your partners than after 5 years of having coffees. And this is what happens in juries. And your experience I never had, but I had many, many surprising, amazing experiences about humans.
I just had one case where an Italian guy wanted to jump from the window because we didn't take a film that he loved. He was really on the window. We had to calm him down.
But was it because he was a man or because he was Italian? That's the question.
Just one thing, that my next film, the main hero of my next film is a man, and is how he's struggling in front of his very elusive wife. He tries to understand the logic of her. And we are absolutely and 100%, and during the whole film, we are with him. And neither me, I don't have any idea what is in the head of the wife. So she's an enigma. And I had to explain that somehow I, as a minority, although we are 50-50, males and females, I'm not obliged to represent my minority, but I can just as freely choose my topic as a male filmmaker. And another thing, while you were speaking, I realized that I'm teaching in the film school, and I'm actually the first and until now the only female filmmaker teaching directing. And I just realized I show them quite a lot of female films. Lucky them. But I never, yeah.
This is Sofia Ban, the Hungarian writer, was here in Spitz 2 years ago, and she talked about it very similar to the way that you're talking about it now, but in the field of literature. And what she was stressing then would be the necessity of female role models for her to get inspired by in her writing, but not so that it would be writing women's literature or whatever that would be, but to have some kind of basic recognition in things that she took in. Do you have female film directors that are role models for you, or that you like? Could you mention one or two of them, if that's the case? I know that you like Cassavetes, but you're not allowed to say Cassavetes.
Oh, not role models, because I don't have role models, but my God, I have such a deep respect for Agnes Varda, for Claire Denis, for Miranda July. My God, I could continue. They are my absolute favorites.
Jasmila?
As I said, I didn't discover women until I finished the academy, and of course with Jane Campion, many things totally opened, and I find very late about Vera Chytilova. It was for me mind-blowing to have her films, and yeah, Helge Sanders and many, many more. They are really such a wonderful directress.
I think it's high time to open up for questions. And questions about the films, or question about... you just say that the next film that you're talking about, Ildiko, is an adaptation of an Hungarian novel called The Story of My Wife, if I remember it correctly. Which is... But the protagonist is actually a man who promises to... He makes a bet. He will marry the next woman entering the bar he's sitting in, which he also does. Yes. So questions about the films, about the film work, about about love,
About space.
and about space.
Well, I worked with amazing partners. Not just the actors, but the cinematographer, the production designer. And you just spoke about this sort of communication, how to transmit what you are looking for. And I always try to make an effort to really give this sort of, let's say, the DNA of the project, what the hell the whole thing is about. And then their imagination can work more freely, and in the same time, exactly in the same direction, the direction we need. And in the case of this film, it was really magic how it worked, how much not just camera position, not just the lenses, but tiny details in lighting, told as much as 2 pages of dialogue could have tell. And I'm so thankful to all these people who were ready and open, and they risked themselves in a way to jump very, very deeply in the project, and then they could be really exact in the detail. And if an outsider would come in, many times they wouldn't be able to explain why we need half an hour more for certain lights, but I knew, and he knew, and we got what we wanted.
Thanks a lot. There were many connections here to what we talked about this morning, and I'm sure that the love topic will also transfer into the next discussion, which will start in a little bit more than 10 minutes. But before we go out and breathe and have a cup of coffee, I ask for a warm round of applause for Ildiko and Jasmila.